Mexico, Baja California. Located on the west coast of the American continent, this peninsula measures 930 miles from north to south and is a treasure trove of wildlife. Many peculiar animals can be found going about their lives in the Sea of Cortez, surrounded by the peninsula, the continent, and the dry land. Not surprisingly, human beings have also developed a unique culture here since the days of antiquity. Ages and ages hence, on a planet that should more accurately be named ocean instead of Earth, a marvelous peninsula makes a variety of life possible. Baja California. This is the beginning of the journey where we can become one with the wonders of nature. The rare animals in the Sea of Cortez. Baja California, an arid land with steep mountains. This region sees very little annual rainfall. Yet the people who live here thrive. The sea is also teeming with diverse forms of life.
In the Sea of Cortez, we can observe large animals such as whales, all the way to tiny fish just a few millimeters long. Among these little fish, there are many that behave in ways that are unimaginable for us. Traveling aboard the Amigo, we are going to study them carefully.
On the south end of the peninsula, a great city has developed called La Paz, facing the bay that opens out onto the Sea of Cortez. As the capital of southern Baja California, La Paz functions as the commercial center. Many people earn their living from the riches of the sea. The fruits and vegetables are also surprisingly abundant. Recently, thanks to the technical assistance from Japan, they have also begun to produce vegetables in the desert. We go out of La Paz on a ship to see the curious animals in the Sea of Cortez. The Amigo is a diving ship based in La Paz. It can accommodate 7 to 8 passengers cruising for about a week. The captain of the Amigo is Ramon, a former hunter who knows the Seas of Cortez intimately. The cook is Antonio, who among other things likes to sing. Chino is the driving master, in charge of various tasks aboard ship and of leading small diving expeditions. And Gwen, from the Baja Quest, is our guide. With a diving plan for 2 days, we head towards the Bay of La Paz. The bottlenose dolphins come to the prow of the ship. They entertain themselves riding on the wake produced by the ship's prow. This way, they can advance quickly without exerting themselves too much with their tail fins. The bottlenose dolphin is one of the animals that one cannot fail to find in the Sea of Cortez. It is known as a very intelligent animal for the pirouettes it can do in the aquariums. In Japanese, it is sometimes called Bandoiruka, but the correct name is Hondoiruka. At sea, they can swim at a maximum speed of about 37 miles per hour. Chino takes note of the noises of the animals from the island and of the peculiar bad smell that floats in the air.
It is a bit more than 3 inches long. It is similar to a fish called sardinella. Tens of thousands expand in a school like a cloud. It's as if the surface of the water resembles a roof made entirely of fish.
This is the cause of the noises and the stink. In many of the uninhabited islands on the Sea of Cortez, one can see the sea lions from California. They emit some guttural sounds, and as we approach, an especially bad smell, like the excrement of the sea lions and the seabirds, reaches our noses. On land, they are very careful, but in water, they change completely, and they are really carefree.
Whoa! It's pushing it! Incredible! It must be about 25 or 30 miles per hour. He ate it! He ate it! He has a whole side just covered. It's a near relative of the barnacle. Each and every one of them a living being. Here it is! Here it is! It's a female of Mexican origin. And this is the male. When they're born, they have the same shape. But they change as they grow up. They look intimidating, but they really are rather docile. They're very interesting fish to study. This one is a moray eel, about 3 feet long. It's very smooth to the touch. It's very soft. His head came out. Good, good. He feels right at home. It's very big, over 3 feet. There he goes, there he goes.
The bottom of the ocean is a paradise for fish. With the changing of the tide, we move to the other side of the island to dive. We're making a deep dive to the bottom of the rocks. The soft coral on the rocks provides great hiding places for the small fish. This school of fish is dining on plankton. The school moves back and forth to find the plankton on the surface of the water, then dives to the rocks below. Some fish expel eggs that are invisible to the human eye, but become food for others. The yellow butterfly fish eats parasites from other fish. This is the baba fish. It seems he can't find any parasites today. The lobster shows his face. He looks about using both his antenna and his eyes. Is this a clam? The clam is actually living on the lobster. The lobster's hard shell is a comfortable spot on which the clam lives. What happened? The gray moray eel is shaking his body. There is a tiny fish on him, 1 inch in length. The tiny fish is eating the parasites on the moray eel. This tiny fish is actually a parasite cleaner. Different kinds of fish have helpful relationships with other fish. There is the male Mexican hobo fish. He wants to be alone. There's a lot of funny-faced fish in the sea. We call this the frogfish because of his resemblance to a frog. He's a fast-moving, funny-faced fish who is 3 inches long. In order to survive in the ocean, all fish have to be clever in their own way. next day, we head towards an island located on the north of La Paz. We are going to Coyote Island, 35 miles or 65 kilometers to the north of La Paz.
船長の作ったスケールだこれな。直線だと
After 4 hours of travel, we can see in the distance the islands of San Jose and Coyote. In Coyote Island, there are only a few fishing families.
I was very young. I'm from Sinaloa. We used to come here. A long time ago, we used to come here to fish. Many years ago.
Surprisingly, just off the island, one can see strange fish. In the rocky terrain, there is a large relative of the rock croakers. A shoal of yellowtail surgeonfish, one of the marvelous species of fish found in the Sea of Cortez. It is a relative of the Japanese Nizadai. Except for a small piece of rocky terrain, the island's surroundings are all sand. The sea bottom is lushly covered with marine herbs about 2 inches long. There are still even more impressive species of fish to discover. For instance, this one. This is an eel with spots like a tiger. Is it looking for food? Is this a frog covered in sand? Not really. It's a ray. It has a large stomach. It looks as if it might give birth soon. In the rocks, one can see a mouth covered with moss. And a pair of eyes. It is a relative of the eel that changes color to blend with its surroundings. It walks using its pectoral fin and moving its gills like a bellows. From a hole, this E.T. pokes out its head. It is a conger from Cortez, also a relative of the eel that lives in the holes it digs in the sand. This family lives in all the seas of the world. But this is a species specific to the Sea of Cortez. The older ones can grow up to 3 feet long. Stretching out of their holes, they feed on the plankton that is dragged along by the currents. This fish has a width of about 2 matchsticks. It walks along the bottom using its ventral fin and twisting its tail. When it finds an appropriate hole, it slides on its tail and hides completely. If there are other inhabitants in the hole before him, he pushes them out and takes their home away. On the sea moss, its body turns green. This one is a male. And this one is female. The male looks around its surroundings and waits for the female who approaches. She perceives the male's presence and approaches slowly until another female appears. They confront each other with the mouth open wide. Seeing this, the male begins to dance, as if saying, "This is my chance." It is a show of love designed to entice the female. However, the female keeps going by. The female watches from the rock. Now she is beginning to show a little interest. The male makes a greater effort, as if saying, "Hey, over here." But the female leaves. She walks right over the male. How mean! As if she were bored, the female yawns and heads toward her prey. She gets it. Dinner before flowers. It seems that the female prefers food over love. This female, watching from her hole, waits for its prey as it approaches. She catches an amazing banquet. It's a baby shrimp, a little longer than 1/2 of an inch. Even so, it is large and will be hard to eat. Meanwhile, the male, without giving up, continues his demonstration of love. But sadly, no one seems interested. The crew of the Amigo greets the morning of the third day of the trip. We arrive at a small inlet and prepare to dive. It is sunlit by the intense rays of the Baja sun.
What does he do with that body that is barely 4 centimeters long?
It is inhabited by this blackfish belonging to the family of the Japanese jinpo. What does it do with a body that is merely 1.5 inches long? This fish does something amazing, right? He stretches at the same time both his dorsal and ventral fins. It can also change colors. The male and female, are they fighting? He starts to twirl around the opening of the hole. Then all of a sudden, he hides, until a lobeskin puffer comes. Again, they confront each other. One goes in and one comes out. The one that comes out seems to be a male. The one that changes color. The research to record visually the behavior of animals has become quite popular. still is necessary to observe this gimpo a great deal more. A baby peacock wrasse, or razorfish, that measures about 3/4 of an inch. It floats on the seaweed as if it were a piece of algae. This other one has grown and measures about 2 inches. If a large fish comes along, it will eat them. When they reach a length of about 5 inches, they come out of the sandbank in search of food. Seeming to be pieces of algae floating on the sand, they catch their food with all their might and keep on growing. Even though it sits there, it's very quick to get away. On the way to Coyote Island, we again head towards La Paz. Gwen says he will show us an interesting fish. This fish lives in cavities it digs in the sea bottom, close to the Holy Spirit Island. There it is. In English, it is called, quite literally, the jawfish. It is also called big mouth because, in contrast to its body, it has a very large mouth. It hides its body of about 5 inches in a hole and comes out of it only when it catches prey. After catching it, it returns to the hole. Close to this jawfish, there is another, stranger one. There it is. Gwen throws a stone at it and gets it to come outside. He does it several times. Could it be that the fish is becoming used to Gwen? He throws the stone and pulls back his hand. In a body of about 1.5 inches, it has eyes wide open, the size of a large coin. Perhaps it has also dug the hole with that mouth. It tries hard to defend its home, but that face won't scare anything. We hear reports of whales supposedly nearby. We get in the boat and we head towards the spot.
They are also there nearby. It's a considerably large group.
A band of whales moves along, exhaling as they go by. They are short-finned pilot whales. The largest ones reach a length of about 20 feet. This band of 30 to 40 whales advances slowly. The short-finned pilot whales lower their round heads and submerge to the depths. Along with the dolphin, the short-finned pilot whale belongs to the sperm whale family. And like the sperm whale, they use their ultrasound to distinguish the shape and quality of things around them. The short-finned pilot whale is a very sociable species that always travels in a group. Its principal nourishment is the squid. They trap the great squid that live in the depths of the Sea of Cortez. In the fall, it is possible to observe the reproductive behavior of many of the fish in the Sea of Cortez. This spot is popular among the divers because one can find the Manta birostris, more commonly known as the manta. This one is a Cortez rainbow, a member of the lumpfish family that measures about 6 inches. Now, the males are going in search of the females. Upon finding one in the process of releasing her eggs, tens of males flock and release their sperm. That is how fertilization takes place. Since the fertilized eggs are carried by the sea and eaten by other fish, their numbers begin to diminish. But owing to the fact that the lumpfish carry on spawning simultaneously, the possibilities of survival for the eggs increases, which ensure their progeny. A rock croaker releases eggs nearby. It adheres its purple eggs to the shell of a sunken ship. The yellow one is female, and the blackish one is male. Normally, both of them are more yellow, but now they have their mating colors. The male is throwing its sperm in the places where the female has deposited the eggs. There are tens of thousands of eggs attached tightly. The eggs hatch in 2 to 7 days. A few months later, the fish reach about 1/2 inch in length. Then it grows about 7 inches and lives by forming large shoals. But the small fish that form the large shoal must always be on the lookout for larger fish. Above, on the surface, the Alcatraz pelicans begin to fish. Pointing towards the fish from their flight, they dive in one after the other. Many marine animals also find their nourishment in the small fish. The ones that take over the holes dug by other animals and eat by coming out of the hole at incredible speed. And the ones that, while they are small, live hidden in the shadow of the rocks. The ones that don't swim very much and remain in the rocks. The fish that live in great shoals over the reefs. The ones that swim in large shoals across the vast ocean. Perhaps in the Sea of Cortez, there are still many curious animals that we do not know, and that we have yet to discover the importance of their part and the part we humans play in the ecosystem that maintains the balance of life in this sea.